Hey everyone, it's Joe Glines here, and I'm doing another one of these AutoHotkey user expert interviews. And today I'm talking with Ernestas from Lithuania. What was the name of the city, the capital?
It's Vilnius.
Say it
Vilnius.
again. Vilnius. Wow.
Vilnius. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so awesome. Tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, work history, and
Yeah. So I'll start with my name. So it's Ernestas Ceciorka. I work at the organization where I use AutoHotkey language to automate some processes. Yeah. About the coding. Yeah, it's pretty much it. I'm starting to learn a new language next week. It's a C#.
oh boy,
Yeah.
cool. Now, do you have a background? Have you learned in any other programming languages?
No, it's only out. Yeah, I started with AutoHotkey, so yeah, it's my first language.
And you haven't, you're not a programmer in nature.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. I'm just like
Yeah.
YouTube, your videos, and all the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. How long have you been using AutoHotkey?
Yeah, it's about 1.5 years, something
Okay.
like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how did you, did you search it out or did someone tell you about it?
Yeah, when I started to working in one organization, so they told me that they programming that language, and I was like, okay, I can start it maybe because it looked like fun.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I just started like that, and my brother used to code with AutoHotkey,
Oh,
so
cool.
he gave me some basics,
Uh-huh.
and I just went right from it.
Does he, I'm just curious, does he still, your brother, does he
Uh,
still use it or?
no,
Okay.
no, not very much, but I'm more like when we are on call, I'm always reminding him about AutoHotkey. Yeah, so when you're starting again, he's like, soon, soon, soon. Yeah, I'll do that soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when you first started, what were you actually doing? Like the types of things?
Yeah, so first, of course, I started from hot strings.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I moved to all those search automations, like you copy a word and it
Yep.
puts in the
Yep.
web browser. And then I started creating GUIs
Oh, cool.
and that like build it myself.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think hot strings are a great, easy way to get into.
Yeah.
I did it for like 3 years before I really learned anything. Well, that and hotkeys, right? And then I changed jobs and I started learning a lot more of the object-oriented stuff, and just how powerful AutoHotkey is. It's amazing.
Yes.
Have you
It
done
is.
any like web scraping yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
All the systems that I work at work is
Yeah.
based on the web pages, so I'll
Yeah.
do a lot of web scraping. Yeah.
Yeah, that was one I realized when I was working in the corporate world. Like to your point, so many systems now they use a browser to connect to, and hey, if you can automate that, right, it's awesome. That's great. So give me some idea of some of the typical stuff that you do at work to automate.
Yeah, so basically that stuff like client searches,
Uh-huh.
gathering some data from the client's cards. So basically that's it, and sending some mails. All the mails I'm writing them like automatically.
Mm-hmm. Are you using Outlook for that or?
It's Lotus Notes now, but
Oh,
they
okay.
are saying that will they like
Yeah.
update the Outlook. So
Yeah, when you I've known people that use Lotus Notes. I used it years ago, but I don't think they have a COM object for connecting to it. But with Outlook, you can create a COM object and write very pretty emails and do also navigate over your different folders and search for things or whatever you want. It's amazing. A great one I love, which I used to use at work, because I get so many files with attachments and they had to be saved in a certain place, and you can automate that whole process. It comes in, you see if there's attachment, you save it to a spot you want, and then even move that file to a folder saying it's been processed. Really helpful.
Yeah.
What are there any other examples that you can mention that you do?
I do some coding with Excel. Now I started with Excel as well.
Oh, okay.
Like
Yeah.
I mean now automating with AutoHotkey, but on Excel.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen I have it's more of a function library where I've created some
Yes,
functions for working.
Yeah, I
Okay. Yeah.
use some.
Yeah. I've
Thanks.
only scratched the surface, right? I mean, Excel's
Yeah.
amazing, but yeah, man, if you're doing stuff in Excel, especially if you have to get a file and format it in a certain way every time or change how it looks, and import it, all of that can be automated, and I see
Yeah.
people every week they get, or every day, oh, I get it, then I have to import it, then I got to make it pretty and do all this stuff, and like that can all be automated, and then automate email, attaching it to an email and sending it to someone, right? It's so easy.
Yeah.
Let's see well, do you have any? Is there certain areas you're wanting to learn next? What do you think is the most helpful so far that you've learned, and what do you want to learn?
Now I'm like started to learn those classes and objects.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also I started using functions, like creating my own functions with the variables, and it's really helpful.
Oh, it's
amazing. A lot of code. Yeah.
Yeah. I was online earlier with Maestriath. He's the author of AutoHotkey Studio, and he had just showed me he had built in something new for AutoHotkey Studio where, he already had it where you could export functions, but now it does a better job of actually automatically selecting the function itself, and then naming it what the name of the function was. And anyway, but he was talking about when he first started using functions, and it's so amazing. It's night and day when you program, right? When you're not using functions. I used to use all these crazy Go subs, and then copy something and paste it and then change one little thing, and you're like, in a function, it's just a parameter pass, and it's I've used classes, but I haven't. I worked through an example building a class, so I know how they work, but I haven't actually written any into my stuff because I still just don't. I don't 100% get them, but I also just don't think I have a need yet. Someday, but yeah, functions are huge. And then you mentioned GUI stuff. What do you do with GUIs?
I just gather some extract from the web some information to the GUI, and then people can do something and then send that information, update it or something like that.
That's for me. That's the typical workflow. People, when you talk about automation, they think, oh, you're going to automate this entire thing, and it's like, no. Usually, I automate part of it, and then I review it or I tweak it, and then I say, okay, now you're done. But and that's one of the things I think, and maybe it's just people with AutoHotkey think that way, but other programming languages, I never see people really do that, right? They build these entire systems and take their 50,000 lines or 1,000,000 lines of code. It's like, it doesn't have to be that robust. It's nice, but you know what? It's I don't know if we're always worth it. Let's see. So do the other people at your work, does anybody else use AutoHotkey?
They use my codes to help them, but they don't program.
Right.
It was one guy who used it, writing code, but he left for another company. So now I'm all alone.
Well, good job security, right? That always amazed me was I had colleagues. It was the same thing. They would use what I would write, but they never took an interest, and I'm like, I think they kind of think you must have special training or something. And it's like, it's not, you're teaching yourself. It's not hard. When I was doing stuff at TI, I was learning AutoHotkey, but then I was doing stuff with SharePoint and there was JavaScript. And I'm like, well, I see how someone else did this with JavaScript and their thing. I can put that in there and tweak it, right? I'm like, I don't even understand anything about JavaScript, but I can still see this was a variable, right, and changed, the format of the time and changed that. I don't understand people's phobia almost, right, to actually look at code. I mean, it's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it is.
But yeah, it's always, I don't know if you try to get people interested. I've tried, and it's just, it almost never, nobody ever picks it up. So I stopped trying. How about how do managers in such feel about you doing it? Do they actually recognize it? First, is it sanctioned at your work that like you can do this, and they're cool with it? They're glad?
Yeah, so my whole position is based on AutoHotkey. So my I'm just coding for money in company. Like, yeah,
that's great to hear. And well, how about, so why do you think they don't actually hire more people to be doing it? Because
they're trying, but it's
okay.
kind of hard because it's hard to find people who like would want to code with AutoHotkey because it's not like really popular language,
Yes.
maybe, if I could say that. But
yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Not amongst programmers. It's not. Yeah. What I would say is they need to find somebody who's open to trying things, has a somewhat analytical mind, can look at things, but they don't have to be a programmer. At least not unless you're doing something really advanced, right? It helps, but anyway, it makes a lot of sense because most quote unquote real programmers don't look at AutoHotkey as a real programming language. They look at it as like, well, it's neat, but how it connects into Windows so easily in all the programs, it's amazing. Cool.
That's true.
Let's see. So how do you explain if you run into somebody who knows nothing about AutoHotkey? Like, let's say you were out, instead of, we were saying this for you, you said it was 11 p.m., right?
Yeah.
So because I know you'd rather be here than out with your friends having a good time. But let's say you were out with them, and they're like, hey, what do you do at work? Explain it to me. Like, how would you explain what you do?
Yeah, I always start with the hot strings because it's the easiest way to them, like, to start all the automation. Then I always tell about the web scraping because it's easy, and then I go to the GUIs, like describing it like some kind of applications that I create with the help of GUIs. So I always start with those three things: hot strings, web scraping, and GUIs.
Yeah. It's I think, have you tried connecting to any APIs?
No.
Okay. I mean, do you know the difference in what they are?
No.
So we have it's one of my favorite webinars that we did was on, we did one, actually I think we did two on web scraping and one on APIs, but a web browser, when you log into a page and like you send your stuff, that's actually an API call, right? Even connecting to an API is an application programming interface, right? So everything has APIs, but when most people nowadays mention APIs, they're talking about web service APIs, which are like servers that you can connect to and send a query to and then get data back. So let's say you were scraping LinkedIn, right? Which you shouldn't do because it's against their policies, but let's say you were, right? When you're web scraping, your browser, let's say you search for people who know AutoHotkey. So you type the search in, it sends a query to their server. That returns back data, but it's wrapped all in HTML, right? And usually the file, like for one page, is like, let's say it's a meg, right? It's a big file. It has all this other crap besides the data you want, right? And then even when you get the data, you have to figure out how to grab exactly what you want where, and depending on how they laid out that web page, it can be easy or it can be hard. Well, in an API call, they usually just return either a JSON string or an XML string, and it's tiny. It's a tiny fraction the size, right? And the data structure stays the same. And once you learn how to parse either JSON or XML, it's super easy. And so they're amazing. The only thing I didn't mention was most APIs, there's security built into it. So you have to get past their OAuth, either OAuth 1 or OAuth 2. And that can be a little confusing. It's a little more advanced. But, and it's also, I'd say I'd show you, but it differs with every service you connect to. They do it differently. So it's a little bit of a pain. But if you're going to one over and over, right, a certain service that you use a lot, and you find out they have an API, it's worth the time because your queries are done like in no time. It's not like a web page. It doesn't change like in the structure. It's super fast and it's consistent. And it's really amazing. And so many companies now have APIs for doing their stuff, right? And so once I learned when I was at TI, they had Texas Instruments, I was on their email marketing team, and our service tool had an API. And I used web scraping to log in and do all this stuff. And then I was reading about the API, and I'm like, well, I'm going to look at it. And so first off, when I would do something manually to upload a list and do all the stuff, it took, if I remember right, 7 minutes. Now I'm going to get this wrong. It's been so long. This sounds about right. Let's say it took like 7 minutes for me to manually do it. And then I automated with web scraping, and that cut it down to, I think, like 2 minutes. And I had to make a couple decisions here and there, right, as it went, but not a lot. When I got it to the API call, it literally took me about 2 seconds to hit the button. And then it took about 30 seconds to finish, but I didn't have to do anything. Right, it was just finishing in the background, so it literally took me like no time, and it was super reliable. I never had issues. It was amazing, but it was something I did probably like 10 times a day, right? So it was worth it for me to get it figured out because it was much more reliable. So for different types of things that are online, like Google has a ton of different APIs available that you can pull. A lot of them are free. Some of them cost a little bit of money. I have a great one. They have a great translate one that you can, automate putting your text in and getting it back out in whatever language you want. You can do that with web scraping too. But again, with the API, it's super lightning fast. And their Google Earth and all the properties. And anyway, it can be as valuable as the web scraping. That's how I got onto this. I agree. Hot strings and hotkeys are amazing, and they're super easy for people to learn. Web scraping usually is very relevant for so many people. They don't even realize it, right? But they could use it. And then the one after that, I would say, is the APIs. Depending on your job, they're super powerful, but not everybody has that kind of need, right? But then automating things like Excel and Outlook with COM are great. And then, like you said, building your own GUI for stuff, that's pretty awesome. Cool. Have you played with regular expressions at all?
Yeah, I do that.
Oh, good. Yeah, they're fun. It's almost like a Sudoku, right, for your brain of mentally fresh, because it's also, boy, you work in it for a while and it all makes sense. And then if you take like a month off and you come back and you're like, okay, I know I wrote this, but like
yes, definitely,
cool. Well, what do you have any? Is there anything? Do you have any examples you could show, or is it?
Well, all the code is on my company laptop, and it's it's that company's property, so it's
no worries. It's fine. Yeah, I mean, it would have been. It sounds like pretty general, not too specific, but anyway. But that's cool. And do you use it for home?
Well, I had a MacBook, so I couldn't code but 2 weeks ago I bought with a Windows computer, so we'll start coding.
Yeah. Do they allow access to something like Dropbox or something like that at work?
No.
Oh, bummer.
It's kind of strict. It's really strict.
Yeah. Because it annoyed me was I used it at work and at home equally, and trying to keep my files synced really sucked. And when I had access to Dropbox, it made it really easy. But otherwise, it sucks because I used a lot of the same stuff. I worked a lot at home anyway, and so anyway, it was nice having the same scripts on each computer. But that's a bummer.
Yeah, well, I started developing on my computer one app, so I could probably show you if you want.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, it's just the start of the app. It's just like to get an idea. Yeah, well, where is the
There should be
share
a
screen?
toolbar at the bottom of one
Yeah,
in the middle. Okay.
yeah, it's like install Chrome extension. Yeah, I'll just need to install the extension probably. I just add the Chrome. Um, oh, sorry, I pressed Visual Studio.
What
Oh,
editor do you normally use? It looks like Sight, I guess, huh?
yeah, it is.
Yeah. I used to use
Yeah,
that for a long time.
yeah, yeah. What did you use?
So I used to use Sight this
Ah,
for years, and then I switched over to
uh-huh.
AutoHotkey Studio.
AutoHotkey Studio. Oh,
It
oh, you have. I haven't heard about it.
oh it's yeah it's amazing. Sight's pretty
Oh,
darn good, right? But Studio does a few extra
uh-huh.
things that really help.
Oh, I will download it if it's like possible to download. Should be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually what's amazing is it's written in AutoHotkey also. So it's for AutoHotkey and it's written in AutoHotkey. Um,
Oh, nice.
yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'll just show you how it looks. It's just an idea what I want to do. Yeah, it will be the goal like that, and here you will have your goals. Like
Mhm.
well, I play drums, so I have to have a goals for my
Cool.
drumming, for my drums exercising, like
Yeah.
speeds and all that. And here, if now it's only like this, it's just like an idea for now.
Yep.
Yeah, and if here if you would put the goals, it's like you don't have any goals, so here you will add the goals. You just need to write the goal and
Yep.
the speed. And when you have all your goals and one speed, you just click submit your goals. Now it does nothing, and later it will have the goals here. By here, I will have metronome and chronometer. Here it will be, but it's just like that. So it's just an idea for now.
Cool. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, well, still working on it. It just
Yeah.
I started like a few days ago.
Well, I
Yeah,
think it's awesome because you're tying together. You're making a tool for you to use for your hobby of playing the drums,
yeah,
but you're also getting to learn how to code better and do things right at the same
yeah,
time. So that's awesome.
yeah. So it's just like one. I have something. No, it's like Excel few functions, but it's not. Yeah, it's just few things I just written, but it's nothing like super important or cool.
No, no worries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just kind of it. What I just made for a week ago, something like that. Yeah,
Cool.
I'll just find myself. Yeah, I'll just stop sharing. Yeah, so that's kind of it.
Also, here, let me. I'll show it just because I know every time it's actually really funny. I've done a couple videos on AutoHotkey Studio, and almost every time well, I shouldn't say it, but my top views for videos often are on AutoHotkey Studio.
Mm-hmm,
It's really so. Let me create it. This is AutoHotkey Studio. I'm going to create a new
mm-hmm.
script so we can start seeing. I guess I wasn't in it. Let me see. I think maybe it was this one. There we go. And let me get rid of that. So let's say you were doing a message box, right?
Mm-hmm.
What I love is see how that's blue. If I put a comma,
Um, I cannot see your screen.
oh, well,
Yeah,
I hit share. What do you see?
but you.
Oh, interesting. Let me try it again. Share. That's the right one. Is that?
Oh, yeah, something good. Yeah, now it's good.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So I'll just start over here. So,
Yeah.
So now when I hit a comma, notice how I'm in the options. And if I hit a comma again, then it shows me I'm in the title, right?
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Cause for some of these, especially like regex as well, right? You can't see in sight. It doesn't, the tooltip comes up, but it doesn't show you where you are. And let's say if I make a function, right?
Yes.
Also, did you notice how it did you can turn it on and off, but when I hit a single quote, it puts in the other one for me, right? Which once you get used to it, you'll hate it at first, but once you get used to it, it's great. So, so I made my own little function here, right? Yes. What's really cool is when I go to call it, see, it even does IntelliSense for my own functions, right? And so it's like, holy cow, that's super helpful.
It is.
Yeah, and then when which I don't remember the hotkey for. Let me see if actually, well, there's another one you can do, and mine's been acting up, and we haven't quite put our finger on it yet. But let me think of debug window. I think that's right. Windows. Now, if I hit Alt F1, and see, I saw a little blink. It should. Oh, actually, I changed the hotkey. That's right. Oh, it was debug window. Now I'm going to hit Alt. It should be F1. And it is. There's something weird, and it's weird. It's only like on my computer, but it'll open that so that's in an include file. It will navigate to that function wherever it is, right, for me.
Yeah.
And then I can just come back. Actually, so I don't know why. I think the problem is I have multiple versions of that. Maybe that's what the problem is. But anyway, that's pretty cool. The other thing is once you move all your functions out, if let's say you're like, hey Joe, I'd like to see that script, I think it's pack. So Alt M brings up this hello. Something weird's going on. There it is. Something weird was going on. And I can't remember if it's pack. I thought it was pack. But it's not. Well, it's not that one. Man, there's one where you can basically you can tell it to pack it all up, and it will go through and put all of them back into one file. So if you move them out into separate files, it automatically pulls them back into and puts them on the clipboard.
That's nice.
This pastes the HK to the clipboard to this. When I hit post, I didn't save that one. Let me try this one. Yeah, there's something. Let me close it and restart it.
Okay. Sure.
There's something weird going on. I got a fair amount of. It doesn't normally look by this, by the way. It'll start with no other GUIs open. And actually, I'll show you how I do it and you get an idea how cool it is. So I'm going to remove this one and remove this one. This is how it'll basically start. It's all one screen, right? And actually, this debug window. Let me come in here and say. So I'm gonna send that to this debug window, I'm gonna run it. So see how it dumped the data to here. So it took that variable I can send it to here, right? And then I can tell if I want to clear the output or put in a line break and do all the stuff for me. But this is the function for sending it to this window. And then I can say, hey, I want to split a control. I want to put it over to the right, and I want the code explorer. And so that was what. Actually, it's damn. Let me remove that. I wanted the project. Yeah, I wanted. So I'm gonna control type. Wait. Split control to the right, and I'm gonna put in the project explorer. Now that'll show me the files I basically have open and I'm working on. So I like having those handy so I can jump around, right? And it's easy to jump between stuff. It's like the tabs, right? But this way I have my debug window here where I can send, if I have a lot of text, right, I can just send it to this output and I don't have to send it to a big GUI and try to look at it. I'm trying to think of what some of the other cool, the biggest things I like. Let's see, is that tabbing around, the indent, it'll auto indent for you. The pulling out and the putting in of the functions, keeping track of where you are. Yeah, those, and it has 8 million other things built into it. It just takes practice to get used to using it and know what's available. The only thing I say is like there's not. I'm not sure if he has a big help file somewhere or something walking through all the functionality. But it's have you seen this, by the way, this function, this find text function?
No, I haven't.
Let me go back to that one I was working on, and I'll do a quick example there.
Okay.
So let's say you had something, and I have a hotkey to launch the tool. So it's going to come up here. There we go. So let's say I wanted to click this where this reload is, right?
Yeah.
Let's pretend it's an icon or something, right? I can say, oh, see how this is that, right? And then I can trim it a little bit, so I can say, oh, I want to make sure I click right, like in the middle of it. That's good enough. I got to tell it, I'll make it grayscale instead of color. And then I'm going to give it a name just to remind myself. Now when I hit OK, then this is the code it wrote for me, right? This actually down below this is just the function and everything else. This line, so actually see when I click that, see how this right here? That's what it's going to look for. I'm going to hit test, and it's going to come up and basically say, oh, if it says OK, which it does, it means it found it. And then it tells you how long it took and where the corner is. Now when I hit this, I'm not going to move my mouse, but watch what happens. So it just moved it right up to the reload, right? So when you're having problems like with web scraping and you're trying to click a certain button or whatever, and some of them, if you've run into like an event handler and all this stuff and you can't get it to do it, I just throw this in there, and then I don't have to. So here, by the way, let me take this. So I'm going to copy this, paste it into here, and now when I run this, actually, why? Oh, that's weird. It lost the pound sign at the beginning. So let me try it again here. Hold on one second. Let me exit out. I got a lot of script running here.
Okay.
And let me, oh, come on. All right, so it ran it. Now, hopefully it's going to move. Yeah, and my mouse just moved right there, right? So this is an older version of the function. The newer one works a little different, but it's super easy. The other great thing compared to the image search, I think it's called for AutoHotkey, with image search, you have to save a local file of the picture, and this converts it into this string. And so you don't actually have to keep the file anywhere, right? It's just that string. So anyway, it's a cool one when you get hung up on something and you're like, crap, I really need to click this thing, and it makes it really easy.
It is cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll email you the link to the to where I'll email you the link to where I have a training video on it, as well as the function I'm using, because I have some that also says, after you click here, do you want to send text? Do you want to move the mouse after you click it? Do you want to move it back to where it was? I wrote some wrappers to it, and then he went and really redesigned the find text function, and I just never adapted my code to the new one, so I'm still using the old one. But yeah, it's pretty helpful, and as long as you're on your computer and the what's the ratio, the resolution doesn't change too bad, then it works great. Yeah, I use it just when I get stuck on something, or if I want something really quick, like this unfollow on LinkedIn. I had a bunch of people that were, I was following that I didn't want to. And so I just said, hey, go look for the unfollow button and then just click them instead of using the DOM and COM and doing it all. I wrote this thing in a couple seconds, or like a minute. And I'm like, yeah, it's so much easier, quicker, but it's definitely slower than doing it via COM, but it worked great.
Yeah, it's awesome, really.
Yeah. So anyway, cool. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about? Have you thought of any other? Do you have any things you haven't implemented yet that you plan to?
I was just wondering one day about web scraping from other browsers, for example, Chrome.
Yeah, Geek Dude wrote a class called Chrome. It's chrome.ahk, and it's pretty darn good. It's not as, I don't want to say powerful. It's not as maybe customizable is a good way to say it, right? It does a lot, and I've used it for little stuff. Although when I'm this is Geek Dude. So this is I'll paste it in our chat here. But you know what? I'm going to email you anyway, so I'll email you this as well.
Sure. Thank you.
But I've played with it and done some stuff, because Chrome obviously is so much faster than using IE, right? And most people say they want to browse with Chrome anyway. So I played a little bit with it. The other one is Selenium. And
yeah. Yeah, I've heard about the Selenium, but never tried it.
Yeah, I tried it for a while, and I have quite a few posts on how to use it, and then I had to reinstall Windows, and then I never reinstalled Selenium, because as much as I hate IE, it works usually, and I don't mind browsing a little with it if I have to. So between that and Chrome, and because with Selenium you can control IE or Chrome or Firefox and a couple others easily, and it's nice, but I still people had problems installing it and things working consistently, and the Chrome one, it's not quite as robust, is a good way to describe it, but you can find text, you can click things, you can extract fields that you want, and for the most part it works fine. It's nothing on Geek Dude's side. It's just it's just not as well developed, and there's not a big library of things you can go borrow from it, but yeah, it's nice. You have to, the only thing I'll caution you on is when you're doing it, you have to start in debug mode with Chrome. And even if you have, if you left Hangouts running or Chrome running in the background, and you launch a debug window with Chrome, it still won't work. You have to kill everything of Chrome that's out there and then launch the debug fresh. And then you can do whatever, right? But it's the one, I didn't have a Chrome browser open, but it's because it was running in the background, and I wasted an hour at least, probably more, of going, this isn't working at all. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, wait a minute. I clicked my little system tray and saw that the Chrome thing was still running in the background. And the second I turned it off, then everything worked fine. But yeah, it's again, for simple stuff, it's great. I actually wrote some stuff where maybe I posted on this thread. I wrapped some of the stuff for for using the like get element by ID and name and stuff, because it I think uses it. It's more like Selenium is, and it uses like XPath and CSS for navigating instead of like the get elements by ID, if I remember right. But it's you know it's pretty active. Yeah, it's and it's yeah, I think this is the one. Let me see. Yeah, where I basically built it in. I made a function that you get the point of the tab, and then you say, oh, I want to connect. I want the class where the attribute I'm looking for is S, and then what index, and then if you want the value, or you're setting it and getting it. But anyway, I built it in here. But again, once you get the hang of the other way, then you don't need this. But for me, I was so stuck once I finally learned the get element by ID and stuff that I didn't want to learn the other side of things.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, was there anything else you wanted to chat about? Are we good?
I don't know. How did you start on like coding with AutoHotkey? Like when was it?
It was, I don't know, roughly like 8 years ago. Well, yeah, let's see. It was longer now, I guess, because I used AutoHotkey for like 2.5 years at least, maybe 3 years of just doing hot strings and hotkeys. And I was writing syntax in the statistical language I use, SPSS. And so I would use hot strings to pull up my syntax, and it really helped me be much faster. And then I left TI, and then about a year later I came back in internet marketing, and that was where my job totally changed, and I worked on the database team, and I learned how to write SQL and stuff. And so I was using AutoHotkey to help automate writing SQL and using business objects and web scraping. And I learned from just looking at the forum and just beating my head against a wall and kept trying. It was a painful process. I wish there were some better resources to really explain some of the stuff, because it's hit and miss, right? There's Jethro's main tutorial, which is what I kept going back to. That's where I learned my stuff, which I still have it on my homepage. And that Mickers one also was a pretty good one. There's 2 on the forum. This is the main one that I learned from. And he walks through some very simple, it is on average, is the vast majority of what you do, right? For connecting to it. And yeah, I just kept sticking with it and practice. But there was a lot, and that's where when Jackie and I started chatting, because I noticed he was answering a lot of my questions when I'd post them. And so he knew a lot about web scraping in the DOM. And that's the one thing I'd say is to study, to get better at web scraping, is study the DOM and how things are structured, Yeah. Do you use my web scraping syntax writer?
Oh yeah, that really helps a lot.
Good. Yeah. I use it, and I write this stuff a lot, but I'm like, on some of these things, why would I try to memorize how to do, some of these things? Yeah, I need to actually update it. I added something else to it. Let me see if I can just see what it was. I added, so I gotta launch it.
And it's really hard to code like at home if you don't have those applications. I just don't remember all those. Like I just copy with your code.
Yeah, I agree. I added one just the other day, and I'm like, oh, I need to push it back out. Maybe it was. No, I can't remember what it was. Oh, it was. I think I added it in here somewhere. Get parameter after. No, it's not that one. Maybe it was it set? I don't think so. I was on one of these miscellaneous things though. Get loop over examples. Oh man, I wish I could remember. Unless I put it here. Oh, this was the read HTML file and load it to the DOM. So, and look, it didn't work. Great. Guess I got to work on it. But basically, you can store the HTML to a file, right? And then you can read it without loading IE or anything, right? You can take that file and shove it into a COM object without using IE or anything, right? And then you can navigate the DOM just like you do normally. So let me try it.
That's nice.
Yeah. There we go. Let me change this to make sure it knows it's AutoHotkey. And it's pretty simple, right? You put the path to the file, right? Read it into a variable. So this, and this, for our purposes, is better so we don't get confused, right? So you read the variable into, I'm sorry, you read the data into a variable. Then you create this COM object, and document. It doesn't have to be document. It can be whatever you want, right? We'll make this doc, and then you write the contents of your variable into that, and then basically this doc is, think of it, it's your this is equivalent to that. The DOC, you're just starting one level down, right? But everything else, as far as I know, is the same. So you just basically, that's why I left this as document. And then I know, like, okay, I don't put anything in front of it, but everything else to the right is the same, and you can go do whatever you want.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so it's a great way if you can programmatically grab your HTML and save it, right? Or even if you don't save it, if you can programmatically grab it, you could store it in a variable, right? This doesn't have to come in from a variable, right? If you could in some way grab that HTML, you can still stuff it into another variable and parse it with the DOM, that's what, once you understand the DOM, right, it's really helpful. But yeah, I need to push. Actually, I need to see every once in a while my pasting thing doesn't quite work, and I don't know if I need a longer sleep or something in that command, because we're not. Oh, that time it worked. Yeah, I don't know. There's something weird in it somewhere, but yeah, that one is. It's one I don't use that often, but when you need it, boy, it's really handy. Do you ever? I'm gonna guess you don't do any SQL stuff.
No.
Cool. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for coming on. Keep at it.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Keep slowly learning and automate more of your job, and spread the AutoHotkey love. I don't try to get many. I don't try to convert. I was reading something the other day. It says, the old saying is, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I read one where it says, you're just better off leading a thirsty horse to water. Okay. So only try to convince people who actually really want to learn how to automate. Otherwise, you're just really wasting a lot of time.
Yeah, that's true.
And have you? Yeah, actually, you were on our last webinar, right? I think I saw you attended our last webinar, correct?
Yes. But I had to leave because
that's right.
It was like 12 o'clock, and I
yeah.
So I needed to sleep to get to work.
Yeah. It sucks. It's one thing that's it sucks about AutoHotkey being such a niche is, it's not like there's 4 of these AutoHotkey things going on around the world, and you can pick a time, right? So we had to pick one time that was best for the planet. So I hear you. Jackie's in Denmark, and so he's often, I think he's an hour, maybe an hour before you, if I remember right, or after you, I guess, because I think it's usually 11 or 12, somewhere in there. But actually, he should be before you, huh? Isn't Lithuania further? No, it's not. Never mind. Anyway, all right. This shows how bad Americans are at geography. Well, cool, man. Thanks for coming on, and ping me. What I always tell people is, when you're keep working on something, you get stuck, keep at it for like an hour, right? And then after an hour, then reach out to somebody, or post in the forum or whatever. Don't spend, especially like in web scraping stuff, don't spend 12 hours trying to do something. Spend a couple hours, and then, especially here's the tricky part, of course, it's probably on a website that other people can't see, right? That makes it hard, because we can't really, it's really hard to troubleshoot, right, when you can't see it. But what we could do is, like, if we could do a screen share, right, and you could just be doing the stuff, I could look at it real quickly and be like, oh, did you try this, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the one thing with web scraping that sucks, is not everybody has the web access to the same pages. But yeah. Awesome. So are you going out? Are you done for the night?
Now I'm done. After this, I'm going to sleep.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming on.
Oh yeah. Well, thank you for having me.
Yo, you bet. Take care.
Yeah.
Bye.
You too.